Good afternoon. Welcome to EduSet Network. Friend, as you know, we are having a discussion on the role of education in the child development. Yesterday we saw how a child-oriented education will benefit the child growth. And today we are going to discuss another very important topic. As you know, the school is the major source of education and have impact on the students. So how an effective schooling and effective schools could be a source of better, you can say, better personality development in the child. We would like to discuss all these nuances and the facet of the education. And for discussion on this very topic, we have in the studio Mr. H.R. Sharma. He is a principal of CRP of schools Delhi and his long experience of education. So I hope his knowledge and experience will help us to understand this topic in a new perspective. So on behalf, I welcome Mr. Sharma for EduSet lecture. Welcome, Mr.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think the most important creation of God is a human being. Since human beings are the most wonderful creations of God, they must prove that they are really miraculous creations of God. It is rightly said, the child is the father of man. William Wordsworth has very truly said. Now, why? First, I would like to begin this communication with this saying, and I feel it is very, very important saying. Child is the father of man. When a child is born, the child has angel-like qualities. The child is innocent, pure, free from any corrupting influences. And at this stage, the child is ushered into a new world, and that is the world of an educational institution. When the child comes to the school, the child is full of zeal, creativity, great potential, and if that great potential is fruitfully channelized in a very productive way, there can be tremendous results. Now the question arises, who can play a very pivotal and crucial role in this domain? I would like to echo the words of Dr. Zakir Hussain, who at some point of time said that it is the quality of education that is going to guarantee the quality of nation. If we want to have good quality of education, we need to have good quality educational institutions. In other words, we must have very, very effective schools. And very effective schools do not mean the schools which are very attractive in shape, which are very charming and appealing. Even if that is an unassuming building, even if that is very ordinary building, but inside the building, the teachers are very zealous, they're very enthusiastic, they have a loving heart. I think that there are two things which are direly needed for being a good teacher. First, a loving heart and a little bit of mind. Quite often it happens that even a teacher who may have been academically very poor in his own student life may turn out to be a wonderful teacher only because of his being understanding, his being generous, his being kind. And then that is why the understanding part is most essential part. And I think an effective school must try to give top priority to the teacher who is understanding, the teacher who is very kind, the teacher who is very generous, and the teacher who has a command over psychological understanding of the child. A child may be having different issues. If the child is not able to understand, It may not necessarily mean that the child does not want to understand. There may be many reasons may be there. For example, sometimes there are certain domestic problems. Maybe there may not be a proper understanding between father and mother. Maybe there may be too much of peer pressure. Maybe the child's basic amenities, basic cares are not being taken proper care of. So there are umpteen number of issues. And I think that if we have to have an effective school, we have definitely to emphasize these issues. Let there not only be the main emphasis on the building, on the infrastructure, but the most essential infrastructure, which I think is the teacher, to help every child in his or her academic potential, no matter from what point the child starts. Quite often it happens that the child whom we have given admission may not be having any potential at all at the beginning, which may not be visible to the teacher. Otherwise, I do not think that there is any child who has not been endowed with God, endowed by God, in fact, with a special ability. What an effective school should do is to detect that ability and polish that ability to perfection. And that can be polished to perfection provided we are able to understand the child from inside out. By understanding the child from inside out, I mean to know what are the basic needs of the child. In what scenario is the child living? In what environment is the child living? How much are the parents concerned about the education of the child? In what kind of environment is the child living? So if we look into all these aspects, we definitely find the child is quite excited. The child is quite enthusiastic. In fact, children are so creative. If any limit is set, it's always set by the teachers. It is we teachers who define limits for the children because they have unlimited potential. For them, only sky is the limit. Now, the point is, students who are below the grade, it should be the genuine objective, the earnest endeavor of every educational institution to help a child below the level, below the grade to reach the grade. And the child who is up to the grade should be helped to go beyond the grade. It's quite natural that every child has his or her own congenital and inherent capabilities. A child may be very good in one domain, may not be very good in other area, other spheres of learning. Now, right from the beginning, if we are able to understand which is the domain of specialization of the child, a child may be cognitively very strong, very good in cognition and intelligence, may not be a very good sportsman. In the same way, a child may be very good in sports, may not be very sound intellectually. But one thing is certain, one thing is undeniably correct, that every child has immense potential. Now, this immense potential has to be unleashed by the combined efforts of all the teachers who teach that particular child. At times, the teachers may have to sit together. They have to look into various aspects They have to find out what are the barriers in communication, what are the kinds of problems which the child is facing. Maybe sometimes it may be a psychological problem, sometimes it may be physiological problem. But one thing is certain, that these learning barriers have to be overcome, they have to be done away with, and these have to be done away with the intervention, with the interference of the teachers. Teachers have to definitely take initiative. Then effective schooling must also help the children to realize their utmost potentialities. I feel, in fact, an effective school should definitely aim at producing, or rather polishing, the ability of the child to the fullest extent. I think if a child is not in a position to pass an examination, we should help the child pass the examination. And a child who is in a capacity to get 60% marks should be helped to get 75-80% marks. In the same way, if a child is getting 80% marks, we can help the child, we can motivate the child, we can encourage the child to get 90 and beyond that. So this has to be the essential task of an effective school and effective schooling. Now, in today's scenario, we find so many international schools, so many so-called international schools, because they are international only by their look. But when it comes to teaching, I feel they lag far behind. So, we have to basically set the criteria of effective schooling, good schooling. And we have also to involve all the stakeholders. By all the stakeholders, I mean teachers are there, parents are there, educational authorities are there, and the child himself is there. All these stakeholders must sit together, they must look into various aspects, various details, and then they must draw a conclusion. And I feel whenever a conclusion is being drawn, there should be a very, very adequate space given to the teacher, the practicing teacher. Sometimes whenever we make plans or policies, we do not involve the teachers. The teacher, who is the most important stakeholder, is brushed aside. Even when the books are to be designed, the curriculum is to be designed, books are to be selected, the standard of the book is to be determined, is to be adjudged, that time we do not consult the teacher. Whereas the teacher can really play a very, very effective role, because he is familiar with the classroom environment, the kind of difficulties, the kind of problems, the kind of barriers which he has overcome or she has overcome. So I think this is another very, very important area which needs serious consideration. Another thing is that measuring the rate of learning, particularly of the child who seeks admission in a particular institution. Now it really becomes very difficult to decide what has been the contribution of a school in the academic performance of a child. Suppose a child has got admission to a particular school. Now, before the admission, the child's potential intellectual level should be assessed, and then after the completion of the calendar year, after the completion of the session, the child should be reassessed, and then the performance at the beginning and the performance at the end should be compared. And if we find that the performance at the end of the year has risen to a considerable level, then we should definitely draw the conclusion that the school has really played a very, very effective role, and that it has made a great contribution. Now suppose we are giving admission to a child who is of the level of 95% or 90%, and if at the end of the session the child remains there only at the level of 90% or 95%, I feel the school cannot claim the contribution that it is trying to owe it to itself or attribute it to itself. So this is how I feel that we can call a school an effective school if the school has truly been able to assess the ability of the child beforehand and has been able to bring about a dramatic transformation, a complete metamorphosis. Then definitely, yes, we can say that yes, it is effective school, and this schooling has been very, very effective. Now, in this effective schooling, there can be very, very important role played by the head of the institution, that is the principal. The principal must have a very crystal clear vision and should have a mission. Having a clear vision where he wants to see his institution 10 years from now, there may be two kinds of goals, set by the principal, head of the institution, by the management. First one may be the short-term goal. Short-term goal may be a goal which has to be achieved within 6 months. It may also be a goal which may have to be achieved within a year. Then we have a long-term goal. This long-term goal has to be achieved with consistent efforts, with serious endeavors, by seriously involving all the stakeholders. Now, it is to be achieved with great missionary zeal. We have really to maintain the level of zeal and enthusiasm, the level of the zeal of the teachers, the zeal of the children, and this can be done by creating very congenial and conducive environment. I think congeniality of environment truly and essentially plays very, very effective role. Quite often it is found that because of conducive environment, a child who takes admission afresh within a short span of time is able to improve himself or herself dramatically. So that is the actual contribution made by the institution. Then about the students. About the students also, there should be clear vision about each and every student. We have to keep one thing in mind, that in a classroom we have 35-40 children, and every child is an individual. And we have to honor the individuality. We have to honor the uniqueness of every child. As I have said earlier, that if 40 children are there, they may have 40 different kind of dreams. A child may try to become a very good sports person. Some other child may try to become very good at music, dance, academics. So the interest of the children vary. And we should never ever demoralize the child, discourage the child by branding that particular domain which the child likes as a domain which is insignificant or unimportant. Sometimes it happens that if a child takes too much of keen interest in a sports particularly, there are certain teachers who are found making comments which are derogatory in nature, which are negative, and they really leave a scar on the heart of the child. So here another very, very important point is that while speaking, while making any comment about the child, we must be doubly sure that not even by mistake a single word is uttered which is derogatory in nature and which can really leave a scar on the heart of the child. Because if by mistake a teacher has given a slap to the child, that can be borne by the child, that can be tolerated by the child, because its scar may be temporary, but the scar which is being left on the heart is indelible and unerasable. So we must honor the individuality, we must honor the uniqueness, we must set goals, we must decide the plan of action, we must plan the strategy to help a child reach a particular level. And at the same time, honoring the individuality of the child, giving due importance to that particular skill which the child has. Now, I always subscribe to this opinion that a teacher may not be necessarily experienced. What is more essential is the warmth of the teacher, the love of the teacher, the understanding of the teacher. Sometimes even a practicing teacher, a trainee teacher, the one who is doing B.Ed, may turn out to be a far better teacher than the one who has been teaching for the past 10 to 15 years. So, no doubt it is said that experience has its own significance, it has its own importance, but at the same time, we have also not to negate the fact that the warmth, the love and affection, the kindness for the children, sense of generosity, understanding are of the greatest significance. And I would like to admit one thing, that every one of us may have definitely been impacted by the concern of a particular teacher for us. We will definitely be able to recollect the contribution, the role played by a particular teacher in our life. And the kind of contribution that that particular teacher has made in our life is unforgettable. We can never forget. Now that one particular teacher who has left such an indelible impact on us that we are not able to forget that, rather we are ever ready to pay the greatest tribute to the teacher and say, "Dear teacher, whatever you have done for me, I will never be able to redeem that. I will never be able to pay that back." Now, this one particular teacher is the one that I am talking about. That we have to be that one particular teacher, the one who is kind and understanding, the one who does not draw a conclusion at the mere drop of a hat, the one who sometimes leaves his decision in reservation. So that is another very, very important aspect of the personality of a teacher, and that I very strongly believe has to be honored and given a due importance. Then another important task of a principal is to ensure that the children are safe. Now in today's scenario, safety of the children is of utmost significance. Now the century that we are living in, this 21st century, primarily needs a caring school. It needs a caring teacher. It needs a caring principal. So everybody in the school should be caring. And if there is a caring principal, there is a caring teacher, there is caring attendant, and in the entire school, if we have that caring environment, suppose we find a child who has got bruises, and if we do not feel that pain immediately, then somewhere we are not qualifying the test of caring teacher or caring principal. So safety, as I started with the statement earlier, that we have to ensure the safety of the children, and safety from various aspects. Safety is a very, very, very comprehensive term. Sometimes we find that a child is being ragged by some other children, is being bullied by other children. Now, bullying is another very regular feature that is to be seen in different schools. And I feel that this is something that we have really to look into. So I think as we have counselors available in every school, at least now it is quite mandatory. Now, counselor's job is really very significant, and maybe in today's scenario, we may not be having sufficient number of counselors, but maybe in the next decade, we will direly be in need of 5 to 10 counselors in a school. In the same way as we have a huge number of teachers, similarly, counselors will be required. Now, counseling is required not only by the children, but also by the parents. And I think that if parents are rightly counseled, if they are educated through PTMs, which are normally held once in 2 months, maybe once in 3 months, but they are definitely conducted at least 4 or 5 times in a year. I, as a principal, am of this strong opinion that an educated parent is a very, very important resource for us. We must have to admit one thing, that now gone are the days, gone are the years when a principal used to play a very, very effective role all alone. Now in today's democratic setup, we really need the cooperation of one and all, and principal is just an individual. Principal has to be one among the rest of the staff members. He has to be a very, very good human being, first of all, kind, understanding, enterprising, emotionally sound, and the one who is able to strike a very, very judicious balance between the management and the staff members. It's quite essential. He has to play a very, very crucial role in ensuring that the staff members, the teaching members, teaching faculties, faculty members are trained adequately and regularly. Regular training of the teachers is again of pivotal significance. Quite often it is observed that when a teacher comes back after a workshop or any conference or seminar, the teacher is a re-energized being. The teacher's energy is replenished. The teacher definitely becomes a better communicator. Coming to communication, it's another very, very important area. While selecting teachers, we have definitely to keep one thing in mind, that 50% of the job of teaching is ensured through the communicative skills, through the linguistic ability. And a teacher who is linguistically sound, who is able to communicate his message or her message very effectively, will definitely be able to impart knowledge to the best of his ability and capability. At the same time, he'll be able to maintain a very good command and control. Coming to command and control, in today's scenario, it is found that when a class is going on, at times the teacher is not able to maintain the requisite command and control. It's found that 2-3 children are busy conversing with one another, or the child is in a very deplorable and pathetic state. The child doesn't have a solution to this problem. I think this kind of situation arises only because the concerned teacher has not done the warm-up exercise. Because children are basically human beings, they are not robots, they are not machines. Since they are human beings, they have to be brought to the classroom. We mature beings, sometimes it happens that even our attention gets distracted because there are several things which may divert the attention of the child. So we must really spend 2-3 minutes on creating the ideal environment in the classroom, conducive and congenial ambience. We should bring the child or children back to the classroom, whichever world they are in. Maybe a child may be having some domestic issue. Maybe the child may have been scolded the previous day. Maybe the child may not have got morning breakfast. Maybe the child's parent may not be feeling well. So, can the child alienate itself from all these issues? No, it's not possible. Even we mature people, when we have certain issues, domestic issues or personal problems, even we are not able to give our 100%. Even we are not quite effective. So how can we expect the children to be very, very effective the moment they enter the classroom? So I think this problem can be very successfully, very smartly sorted out by the teacher concerned, and the teacher should definitely keep it in mind that every child is a gem. Every child is a piece of diamond. I would definitely appreciate the methodology of different countries in general, foreign countries in general, and USA in particular, where every child is given a great honor. Every child is treated to be future doctor, scientist, engineer, advocate, philosopher, thinker, or any other professional. Normally what happens when we enter a classroom, when a teacher enters the classroom with this feeling that he is going to teach a bunch of fools, he is definitely one among them. And if he thinks that he is going to teach a bunch of average children, then he is an average teacher. But the one who thinks that he or she is going to teach a bunch of wonderful human beings, brilliant children, the teacher is a wonderful creature. and a brilliant person. This is what has to be kept in mind. That every word, Gandhiji has rightly said that we must be very, very particular about our P's and Q's in the classroom. Never ever, by mistake also, a negative word, a derogatory word should be uttered by us, because children are very, very good observers. They are wonderful listeners, and they are going to observe each and every activity of the teacher, which even the teacher may not be very clear about. That is why, because they are the best judges. It is the children who put a teacher to the highest pedestal of honor and reverence. And it's the teacher, it's the children who bring the teacher down to abysmal level. So that is why children's uniqueness, children's individuality should definitely be acknowledged. It should be accepted. Now, then achieving the basics. As I was talking about the textbooks, we have really to look into this serious aspect. Sometimes a 4th class book may be beyond the capability of an 8th class child. What exactly are we doing? What are our requirements? What do we want? And if we think that by prescribing a book of a very high standard, we are going to raise the standard of the children, then it is erroneous view. I very clearly remember that we were taught just a single book. But our teachers were so particular that they had very brilliantly mastered each and every skill, be it listening skill, speaking skill, reading and writing skill. These 4 skills had been mastered by the teacher in such a way that till date we remember their contribution, the great difference that they have made in our life. Now, level of principles awareness. I think an effective school should also ensure that the principal or the head of the institution is an exemplary teacher himself. He or she must go to the class, because a principal can be a very good role model by holding the chalk, entering the classroom and teaching to the utmost satisfaction of the children. And there's a reason why there are some 12 periods mandatory for the principals. So principals need to lead the team by the front. And the principals are the ones who must update their knowledge at a regular basis. They must attend symposia, conferences, workshops, and they must be voracious and avid readers. At the same time, they should also ensure that their teachers are definitely at a very regular basis are allowed to attend workshops and symposium. Because every teacher should be treated as an asset. And the most important asset for that matter. If we have this view, this approach, this philosophy in mind, I am certain there can definitely be a dramatic change, a great improvement in the scenario of effective school. And then definitely we can say, yes, we are certainly making a great degree of difference. is not again only the upgradation of the teaching members, the non-teaching faculties also should be given an opportunity to have an exchange with other schools. They should be able to get familiar with the environment of other schools, be it the receptionist, be the accountant, be it the support staff. They should all be trained at a regular basis. They must definitely be made familiar with the best kind of behavior, because the school is evaluated not only on the basis of the teacher or on the basis of the principal. The assessment of the school begins right from the PN. 3 P's play a very, very important role. First P, PN, then second P, physical education teacher, and the third P, principal. These 3 P's really play a very important role, and in order to have an effective school, these 3 P's must be given very, very due consideration. They must be regularly trained. They must make it mandatory to attend a workshop at least in a month or two. That is certainly going to make a lot of difference. And teachers to be trained specifically with the methods of improving the performance of the children. At the very outset of this talk, as I said, that children's potentiality is immense, and teachers should be made familiar with different methodologies. Lot of innovations are required. A very successful teacher is the one who is very, very innovative, who does lot of innovations in the classroom, who involves lot of activities, and who does not let even a single child feel hassled or feel stifled in the choking environment of the classroom. It should be very, very relaxed environment. Let every child feel very free. Let every child be at home. Let every child feel at home, feel relaxed in the classroom. Because it is said that when the children feel relaxed, in the true sense of the term, there occurs the best learning. So the teachers have to be made familiar with new methods. And then the school management should also allocate adequate stipend or budget for in-service training program, for post-service, post-appointment training program. And then these programs may be held on Saturdays or maybe during summer vacation when the teachers are comparatively free. Another important aspect, that is, a very, very effective school is the one which has a judicious blend of autonomy and directiveness. There should be adequate autonomy given to the teachers. The teacher who is under a lot of stress and strain, a teacher who does not feel happy, does not feel free, does not feel relaxed, if the teacher is under a lot of strain, this strain may be of variegated sort. It may be of any nature. Sometimes the philosophy which quite often some educational institutions have that the more they put stress on the teacher, the more the teacher will perform, is not a very, very appreciative approach. I am of this opinion that when the teacher feels honored, respected, when the teacher's self-respect, self-esteem is enhanced, when the teacher is considered to be an inalienable part of the institution, inseparable part of the institution, an indispensable entity, the teacher's performance is the best. And the teacher is ready to give his 100%. A teacher does not teach because of simple paper that is check. It's not the salary which is the most important motivating factor. Salary definitely matters, it does. But then, at the same time, we have also to ensure the honor and respect extended to the teacher. And then you see the dramatic performance. Now, too much of work is being done in HRD, that's human resource development. And we really find that multinational companies are there which are very particular about ensuring that every employee, every member is given due respect, his requirements are taken care of, his needs are taken care of, and that's the reason why they are doing extremely well. They are performing so brilliantly, so stupendously, that is beyond anybody's words. Now then, coming to CCE, a few very, very important aspects of CCE. First of all, basically it is a shift from examination-oriented approach. Earlier, imparting of education was to be focused on examination. Now, in place of emphasizing only on examination, the emphasis has been shifted to holistic development. Holistic development means scholastic as well as co-scholastic areas. It's not only the cognitive ability, it's not only the intellectual capacity that is going to make a person successful in life. Co-scholastic areas play equally important role, that is the management of emotions, emotional management, then critical thinking, creative thinking, decision making, giving due respect to our fellow human beings, to our colleagues, to our elders. These are also very, very essential. And it is here only that attitudes and values make a world of difference. And it is through these attitudes and values that we can definitely ensure that a child, by the time the child passes out, he or she will be the most successful individual. Thank you.
So, the effective schools, as you said, that there are many parameters on which when we we can say non-state only, then we can say these are the effective, because the different opinion have difference about the different schools. So, what could be a universal one? Can we reach to some kind of consensus? Yeah, it's like
certainly, definitely. First of all, there are certain common components, and common components are that every educational institution should be caring institution. It should have effective teachers Effective teachers, as I have said, the teachers who may not be very experienced, who may not be very intelligent, but who must be very kind, understanding, and who love this profession. Now, I feel in teaching profession, sometimes we have those people who have no passion at all for teaching, and as they have no passion at all, they do not have that attraction. They are quite lethargic. They are not able to deliver the job with that effectiveness, but that kind of passion, but that kind of zeal and enthusiasm. So, my point is that we should be very, very specific. Like in SSB interviews, we are able to know the suitability of the candidate. Similarly, I feel in teaching area also, we must know which individual is suitable, who has that passion, who has that high degree of zeal and enthusiasm. And I think if these aspects are looked into, we can definitely have a very, very effective school, and these are the common components.
And a school's effectiveness can be established this way. And study we were talking about the learning pattern of the child must a teacher understand, and then accordingly should be taught in the classroom. So, what could be the school level? If there should be a practice, there should be a step to know the different parameters, different we can say different behavioral, the different set of norms which a student goes with that, so that identify first and give it to the teacher, so that it will be easy for the teacher to make the class more comprehensive and all that.
Very right. I think first of all, reward and punishment play very, very important role. A child who has done something wrong should be punished, and punishment, even a simple rap on the knuckles, will be more than sufficient. That can spare the child from the noose later on. At the same time, if a child does anything which is worthy of praise or admiration or appreciation, no teacher should fail in the duty of appreciating the child. Another thing, we should be very, very quick and very forthcoming in encouraging the child. Children really need lot of encouragement, lot of motivation. Sometimes a single word is spoken by us brings about such a great transformation in the child, that the child is able to reach those areas also which were beyond the imagination of the child. Such is the magical impact of motivation and encouragement.
So, what so far the methods used by the school to explore the potential of a student, to provide them a forum, provide them platform where they can nourish their ideas?
Now I think now in today's scenario, there are a number of activities which are conducted at a school level. Children are allowed to participate in different activities. They are sent to different schools. Inter-school competitions are there. Inter-house competitions are there. Sometimes even at zonal level, district level, these are the kinds of competitions. I think every child should be given a platform. Giving platform to every child is of utmost significance. Suppose there are 2,000 children, in one or the other way, every child should be brought onto the stage. Because sometimes a child has a very, very keen desire to come onto the stage, but because of one or the other reason, the child is not able to get this opportunity. As a result, this becomes a stumbling block for the child throughout his or her life.
So, the point is to be given a stepping stone, not a stumbling block.
Yes, certainly a stepping stone. A word, single word I am telling, a single word of appreciation can work as a miracle for the child. In the same way, a single negative word can really leave such a scar on the heart of the child, which is indelibly printed, and which can really damage the personality of the child like anything. So this is what I think, that teachers should never ever by mistake also use any comment which is derogatory in nature or which is negative in nature.
Okay. So, well, friends, with these words, we would like to conclude the lecture. And I thank all of you for watching the lecture. And on your behalf, I thank Mr. H.R. Sharma for delivering such an insightful lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you.